Welcome back to Lenz's Comic or Nicholas Non-Classics. This is episode number 2412 and Doubleshot number 2306. We're here discussing kind of two trades here. We have basically the issues from Thor by Dan Jurgens and John Romita Jr., Volume 3, and also a Captin America Epic Collection. Yep, it is actually his penultimate one. Yep. Yeah, because there's one more left of this one, and that's pretty much it. So, with the Thor issues, basically, the Thor Volume 3 collect the issues 14 to 17, along with Iron Man Volume 2, Volume 3 issues 21 to 22. There's also Peter Parker Spider-Man Volume number 8, which I'm not discussing because I've discussed them already, and along with Juggernaut 8th Day. The first two issues here is basically you have, well, in the case, the first issue is a team between Iron Man and Thor taking on the Absorbing Man. First two issues are two loosely connected issues, and then 16 and 17 are part of the 5-part crossover known as the 8th Day. Yep. So, the issue starts off basically with Iron Man in his Hero's Return armor, bringing in Jake Olsen, who actually is someone who works there. Jake Olsen's period of time, I believe he's supposed to be like Thor's secret identity, so we also see the Avengers help out here too. It's really cool issue, and of course they take on the Absorber Man. Yep. Yeah, and then we have a character from the previous issues, issue... When I see back in 60s, someone named Eric Kurt. Yeah, he shows up here in front of Jake Olsen. It's not related to Thor, and then of course, well, this is kind of how. And of course, then we have him fighting Jake Olsen. Thor goes something, and then basically like, apparently it's revealed that Jake Olsen's got a warrant for his arrest. Why? Well, yeah. Then basically the very next issue you have Odin. Yes, Odin come in. Who's here since the Warrior 3 to figure out what's going on with Thor. We have more stuff with Celeste, with these other beings here. Yeah. And of course, Jane Foster is telling off the detectives like, wake up, Olsen, you're busted. Nobody touched this. And, yeah, by the way, this detective who's a friend of his, Detective O'Neill. I wonder if this character is named after Denny O'Neill. This is setup has to be. You guys like, not a chance. Every bit of evidence leads by check evidence. Ran hours gospel. It's all circumstantial. Lots of people have those schedules. What about his partner? Maybe we check on him. Look, Jake, confess, and I'll make sure he's on you. Do it, because with evidence, there's no way you beat this rap. I didn't do it. I want the man to work for. You work for Olsen. Come on, take the detective. Yeah, and of course, there's basically like, where you're gonna get a break. They think he's a drug pusher. Well, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna spoil this to give us want. And of course, you backstabbing creep. You're your best friend. I'm your friend, Hannah. Oh, I thought it was Jane Foster's Hannah. I would not blow my cover this way. He's a pusher. Hey, Bull, we have proof. Yeah, gentlemen, that man is my patient. You have no authorization to interrogate him. Dr. Foster. Mr. Olsen suffered a heart attack at the brutal assault by a lethal accost villain. Once healthy, he tours. For now, he's mine. Out. As you wish, Doctor. Yeah. What evidence? Yeah, and of course, I pull out Thor's hammer. Warrior 3 shows up. Urga Basic comes in. And then for some stupid reason, because Olsen decided to run, this detective thought it'd be a good idea to bring out his freaking gun. You might be curious, is follow-up next issue? No, not really. Now you might be also curious though, does this book contain an annual? Like, does Annual 2000 come on this book? You want an answer to that? Nope, no annual. Yeah, I thought Thor 16 basic part of this. I was wrong. My apologies. The annual is actually in the very next volume for the series. Yep. Excuse me. Yep. So, start with Asgard. John. And of course, doctors on the run from the law. And of course, I'm not sure that Jane Foster. Yeah, and I'm like, you read this like, where the heck are these detectives getting their evidence from? The fact that Jake Olsen is a pusher? Like, yeah, and by the way, Thor is using Jake Olsen as his secret identity, and he has no idea what the heck is going on. He's innocent. He has no idea. Warriors are taking this guy here. Then Jake Olsen grabs the hammer, comes Thor again. Fights this guy. Yeah. And then Loki returns. Yep. Did we dare say Juggernaut? Yeah, and by the way, issue 17 is actually, I think it's 17 part 1 of the story. No, 17, yeah, 17 is part 1. Yeah, then basically we have the Juggernaut show up here. Yes, the frickin' Juggernaut. Yep, and this is part 1 of a 4-part story. This is really weird. Where, like, this is part 1, and then Iron Man number 21 is... It begins here, the 8th day. Yeah, and this is technically, you know, like, you probably think, okay, for this storyline, if you're curious, the starting point is Iron Man 2021. That's what the start is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually the prologue into. It's actually the official start. It's like It's like the prologue to the story. That's where it starts. So you have Iron Man here. By the way, Iron Man the book is at this point still written by Kurt Busiek with Roger Stern as the co-writer and Mark Bagley in the artwork. Yep, so we deal with Iron Man and Warbird. Yes, I say Warbird, despite the fact you look at that costume. Oh, that's Carol Danvers' Miss Marvel costume. That's indeed true, but this period of time she was known as Warbird. So, yeah, and also this is weird with this book here where Carol is a supporting character in this book, and she's also dating Tony. Yes. If you're really curious, why the heck would Kurt Busiek even include her in this book? Honest answer, I do not have any idea. Because here's kind of the thing about Warbird. She did not have a title this period of time. Nope. At this period of time, Marvel was not interested in giving her a title. So they just made her a supporting character in Iron Man. Yeah, it's like, well, of course she appears in Avengers from the start of it. And then, like, when she leaves after issue number... after issue 7, she's dumped in this book as a recurring character. And she's in this book for quite a while. If you're curious, how long did she stay in Iron Man, you might ask? Well, until issue 25. Yep. Though she does come back for 39. Though her previous appearance part of the story was actually in issue 20. Or she was mentioned. Yeah, but she technically was last seen back in issue 19 of this very book. Yep. Mostly but she's also appearing in Contest of Champions period this time. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure whose idea was it to have Carol Danvers to be a supporting character in Iron Man. I mean, it doesn't make any sense for Marvel to do this with this really good character. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically like... My guess is they probably just want to give her something to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's part of the main bench book for a brief period of time, so put her in Iron Man to give her something to do. So, yeah, there's just a build up here. Lots of exploring, and eventually it leads into... Then we have a cliffhanger. Then we have the prologue, 8th Day. Yeah, the opening portion of the story has nothing to do with 8th Day. Nope, it does not. Yeah, that's something quite weird about this book, is that it has two stories. The backup story does basically have something to do with it. And we deal with a character named Inferno. Yes, Inferno. And she's kind of in a way one of the villains of the story. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's here for this story arc, and then she pops a few times afterwards. Her last appearance being in issue of Black Knight. Yes. Or she was part of the Exemplars. Yeah, they were like the main bad guys of the story. Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically the story you just have where it's lots of good build up here. And then she makes the idea like, oh, let's go move with the Thor now. Yep. Move with Thor where Thor takes on the Juggernaut. Yep, and this is how John Romita Jr. draws the Juggernaut. And if you're really curious to how long did Romita Jr. do this book for, he did the book into issue 25. So we have about 8 more issues plus an annual left to go for him. And that's it. But after he stops being the artist, Dan Jurgens does not leave the book into issue 79. Yep. So Thor fights Juggernaut. And Loki's sort of manipulating all of this stuff here. You know, we have more people show up here. And then move over to Iron Man number 22. Yep. For part 2 of this story. I thought it was 5 parts. No, it's actually 4 parts. It's weird, though, that the prologue is in issue 22 of Iron Man. And then, it's like the backup story issue 21. And then, 22 is, part 2. And then, part 3 is someplace else. Well, actually, part 3 is the Peter Parker Spider-Man book. I've discussed already, so... Yep. His involvement in this book is very minor. And we have a little bit going on in Iron Man and deal with the various other people pop up here. Yeah. And there's also an insert in this book called Fastlane. It's called Media Blitz. It's a drug PSA. The main villain of the story is Mysterio. It basically is a drug thing. We have this guy who's got a drug and where... The thing called Fastlane, a guy who tries to do a little pipe smoking thing. Yeah, the best way also kind of... Look at this guy here. You better think, is that Calabac at Marvel? It looks like Calabac, but it's not Calabac. Nope. My guess is that this is probably the Exemplars. And this is something I think I should mention here. I think the exemplars are, how should I put this? Like, what is this guy's name here? The members of the exemplars are Beldam, Convor, Conquest, Decay, Inferno, of course, Juggernaut himself, Stonecutter, and Tempest. It's almost like, basically, when it comes to this particular book, it's like, you look at these characters, and it's like, apparently, for some strange reason, let's just have it where the characters are just basically having a similar idea to Jack Kirby. Yeah. And the whole story is wrapped up with the Juggernaut issue, with, of course, the exemplars. You think, oh, did it disband with the Juggernaut issue? No, not really. It just mostly put the conclusion of the story. It's a really interesting story for what it is. Yeah. Oh, in case you're curious, it's a Juggernaut book. It's written by Joe Casey and artwork by Terry Shoemaker. Yep. It's a good story, but that's kind of the thing about this whole exemplar stuff. They're just basically just taking from concepts from Jack Kirby, applied the Marvel way. I don't know how Jack Kirby felt about. Actually, he passed away part of this. I'm not sure how his family felt about these characters, but it could be Kurt Busiek and Dan Jurgens was paying tribute to Jack Kirby these characters. I don't know, but it's a very interesting story nonetheless. And I'm gonna give this storybook I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Excuse me. Nope. Here we go. Next up we have is from the Captain America Epic Collection, which is the penultimate one. Yes, because there's one more of this one. This is from Captain America Epic Collection, Volume 21, Twilight Last Gleaming, which collect issues 431 to 433, Tales of Suspense, Volume 2, Number 1, Avengers 386 388, and material from Captain America Event Collector's Preview, and it's also apparently, this thing is also collected in the Volume 22. It just basically shows stuff for later. That's most of what this collection is. The Avengers, not going to discuss those because that's part of Taking Aim. I'm skipping that one because I've discussed it in the Avengers Epic Collection. Now, in the case of issues 431 to, I think it's 434, I think it is. It's part of the Fighting Chance story. This issue here, 431, is the debut of Free Spirit, who was at one point dating Jack Flag prior to his death. There's this group called the Kinder. Basically, like, these are kind of like kids of... Kind of in the way the Kindler are just the children of Baron Zemo and the Baroness. Baron Zemo. Yeah. Yeah, and in case you're curious though, Fighting Chance wrapped up with 437. It was if you're really curious, how long was this story? This story was 13 parts. Yeah, 13 parts. And the first 7 issues that are collected in this Epic Collection are the last 7 issues. Why they stop at that 430? I'm not sure why. It's weird. Yeah. That makes here as well in this story. It's a really cool story here, mostly involving the Zemos. for the most part. Yeah, and also involved in the Serpent Society. Jack Flag is here. Yeah, basically 434 is debut of Jack Flag. Yep. And then basically, like, Jack Flag disguised as King Cobra. Yep. Yeah. So it's like moving the Zemos over to the Serpent Society because, well, there's kind of a reason for that. And then we have the epilogue handled in 437. Yep. And that's kind of wrap up the story itself with guest appearance by Iron Man, Hank Pym. And then 438 deals with basically Cap getting his brand new armor. His exoskeleton makes his debut in this issue. And the exoskeleton itself is not around very long. No, not really. It's only here from 439 to 443. And then it returns shockingly for Access. Yes, apparently Steve Rogers dug this out of the closet to fight Sam Wills when he was basically inverted. And the reason why he wears this thing is because if he doesn't wear it, he cannot freaking move. Yes, it's explaining the story. And, yeah, so he has to deal with this the whole story. That's basically a big plot thread here. We also deal with the death of Super Patriot in 439. Yeah, Super Patriot was well, it's actually a character originally created by Chris Claremont. These are the guys who created this Mike Farrell character. Chris Claremont, Roger Kenzie, Sal Buscema, Mike W. Burr, Mark Greenwald, Dave Hover, and Frank Springer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys. Maybe because they kept changing their minds what to do with this guy. Yeah. He's been around since issue 237 of this very book back in 1979. Yep. He was like a firefighter, became a super patient. He actually sadly dies by 439. And then basically we deal with taking names. So I'm skipping over 440 and 441 because basically those two issues are the taking name issues. I've discussed those already in one of the Avengers Epic collections. Then we have the final appearance at 442 of the Salch Hopokor. It's basically like people who work for the Red Skull. This was their final appearance. We also see the death of Everyman, who is a JMS character. And as mentioned here, they kill off the character Machete. And basically Cap is like dying. And then sadly put basically with issue 443, you also have death of Arnie Roth, who's basically an old friend of Captain America's. Yeah, he dies in this issue. And sadly put, in the case of 443, this would turn out to be the final issue of Mark Greenwald's run of the book. Yep. But I'll talk more about his final thoughts on this run in just a minute. But this was really good. I love all these issues. Now, you might be curious, though. Is there any annuals in this Epic collection? Nope. There is not. But there is still one more thing to discuss here. And that is Tales of Suspense. Which, in my opinion, was the one other issue for this series. Not the Tales of Suspense miniseries that came out for, not Fresh Start, but Marvel Legacy. Yeah, it's mostly about a team book. It's done by James Robinson. Artwork by Colin McNeil. Yeah. And this actually is the only book in here not done by them. So, I love the artwork here. Mostly put it's just them teaming up to deal with Hydra. That's kind of in a way what happens this issue. Well, actually, I think on a group called Dante. I thought it was Hydra. My mistake. Yeah, and this is their sole appearance. It's a really fun one shot. I'm glad that Marvel included this as part of their Epic collection for this for Captain America. The one shot does fantastic. Yep, and two of the members, Beak and Emil Stain all get killed off in this one issue. Emil Stain, you look at him and he looks like Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, but he isn't. Not really. Yeah, Nick Fury is also in issue 2 on Patrick Leaper. But fun stuff here. I give these issues a 10 out of 10. Final thoughts on Mark Greenwald's run for the book. Since now pretty much I have finished reviewing his whole run. This run was absolutely fantastic. Quite possibly one of the greatest runs in the history of the series. Like, it is up there. Was up by Jack Kirby, Stan Lee. I'm going to throw in James Minus because he did some good stuff with Captain America. Of course, Ed Brubaker had really good stuff for Captain America. Rick Remender. Mark Waid, obviously, he has some good stuff. Matter of fact, Mark Waid would actually take over the book right after this for a very short run. And then Heroes Reborn happened. And afterwards, the book back over again for about a couple years for him with Dan Jurgens, who had a pretty good run in a nutshell. Captain America's never really necessarily had a bad run per se, but he's had some good runs overall. It's just that basically, one thing I do appreciate about Mark Greenwald's run for the 137 issues he did, at least we actually had a writer who stuck around for more than like 2 or 3 issues. Because that was the thing between, like, that's the strange thing. Coming between the runs by Jack Kirby and Mark Greenwald, this is the era of like, oh, let's have basically like multiple writers for like an issue or 2. Like, here's one for you. Like, as soon as... Now, here's the writers you had throughout these entire run. Now, you have Wade took over afterwards. You have Stan Lee doing issues 100 to 141, 216, 400, and 600, along with the first 2 annuals, which are essentially reprints. Gary Frederick does issues 140 to 148. Jared Conway, 140 to 152. Steve Eichelhart, 153, 167, 69 to 86. No, let's do this one. I think 168 must be reprint. John Werner does 186, 188. 189 and 191 is Tony Isabella. Bill Mansell did 191, 256, 291. Marv Wolfman did 1 issue of this book. 1 issue. It's like, okay, we're doing rotating writers. And we have Jack Kirby did the book for like... Here's the thing. He did the book for 22 issues plus 2 annuals. Great run. Of course, you have Roy Thomas. He's only did 168. And he did come by the book briefly for 120, 215, 217. A did 423. And he was 9, 11, 13. Don Gilt did 217, 221. Of course, he co-did it with Steve Edelman and David Croft for 221. David Croft took over 265, 266. He also did 271, 273, 74. 157 was Steve Gerber. He also did 221, which apparently 221 had 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 writers in the book. Of course, he did 22, 23 by himself. 25, Peter Gulls did 24, 238, 239, 426, and the 7th annual. Ryan McKenzie had a little more issues. 226, 237, 243, 245, 250. Paul and Alan Kupberg did 240. Mike W. Bird did 241, 257. Steve Grant just did 242. Ryder Stern, 230, 247, 245. John Byrne, 247, 249, 253, 54. Jim Shooter, 232, 250, 257, 259. Chris Claremont just did 2 issues of this book. 257, 58. Dave McKenzie over 258. Left with 259 to the 5th annual. Al Moger did 1 issue. Jamie Diaz, he did a lot of issues of this book. Here are the issues he did. 261, 264, 267, 270, 272, 275, 290, 300, 300, and number 6. He had more of a lengthier run of the book, though he had some fill-ins. Mike Carlin did 301, 306. Of course, Dan Must also did the 6th annual. Mark Greenwald, of course, did 307, 342, along with 424, 440, 443, along with annuals 8, 10 through 12. And those are your writers. Of course, wait to go over for the remainder of the run. But yeah, in the course of, if you think about 344 issues. 345 issues. In 345 issues, this book went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 writers in this long period of time. And here's the thing. The only ones in more than just a few issues were just Lee, Steve Eichelhart. These are the only ones regular writers. Lee, Stan Lee, Steve Eichelhart. Because some of ours are just coming here and there. I would say the next regular writer that had the book was Dan Matias, and then we had Mark Gruenwald and Mark Waid. So over of these 28 writers, only 4 of them were the regular writers of the book. Everybody else basically did just issues here and there. Some did about 6. It's like, wow. It's like they just could not keep a writer in this book for some strange reason. I don't know why. It's quite weird. Okay, so that's episode of you. Next we have another comic corner, and then basically rest the voice of it. Then work on Bleach. Okay, next video.